The Morgan Plus 4 has been around for 72 years. 72 years. And this is the new one. Now, 72 years is a long time. A lot has changed. 72 years ago in the 50s, doctors like me used to prescribe smoking. And unless you've been living under a tree, you'd realise now that smoking is pretty unpopular. Well, the Morgan Plus 4 is a new Plus 4, and they've made a lot of changes to make it more drivable, more fun, but retaining its classic good looks and Morgan characteristics. Let's have a little look around this car and go for a drive. Let's start from the front. Now, Morgan wanted this car to be in the 21st century, so they created something called the CX chassis. Now, this is a bonded aluminium chassis rather than the old steel option, which means that you can get better suspension in the car. The chassis is more rigid, more stiff, but also still more comfortable. Now, coming around to the side, you can see that this car has got wire wheels, which is actually quite impressive. It's really, really hard to get these into a modern car for reasons that are beyond my intelligence. And then going around to the side, you've got these louvers, which are actually printed by machines still, by the workmen in the factory. They do this with a manual machine, the same way they've been doing it since the 1930s. Now, you'll notice on this car, there is a ton of chrome absolutely everywhere. Chrome when the lights are around, chrome on the grille, chrome down the bonnet, chrome around the windscreen and on the wing mirrors, even on the door handles and on the center nuts. Coming around to the back, this particular car hasn't been spec'd with the spare wheel option. As you can see, the back bit is blank. It looks a bit weird without it. It's got the passive exhaust, which is still a sports exhaust, which sounds pretty good. And yeah, it's just a lovely car to behold. The interior on this car is really, really stunning. Now, the whole point of Morgan modernizing their car was to create something that was a bit nicer inside, and importantly, the new CX chassis created a lot more space inside the cabin, which is finished quite nicely. Yeah, now that's what I'm talking about. Hello guys, and welcome to the inside of the Morgan Plus 4. Now, this car is very, very cool. It's a quintessential English car. When you think England and cars, you think Morgan, Aston Martin, Caterham, but this thing looks the same as it did 70 years ago, which is not something you can really say. There aren't that many cars around, maybe Porsches and Mustangs that look similar, but this thing literally looks the same. Now, what have they changed with this new Morgan Plus 4? Well, importantly, this car now has a new chassis. It's the CX generation chassis. It's bonded aluminium rather than the steel chassis from before. It's more rigid, it's better, the suspension fits in it better, and it's more fun. That's just some kids shouting their praise at the Morgan, which is kind of surprising considering in Malvern where we are, these things are so common, it's not funny. Now, this car is powered by a BMW V48 engine, which produces 255 horsepower. Now, 255 horsepower may not seem like a lot, but when the car weighs just over 1,000 kilos, trust me, it is enough. 0 to 60 time with 255 horsepower is a quite impressive 4.8 seconds with the ZF 8-speed gearbox, which is also a BMW item, and 5.2 seconds with the manual gearbox like I've got right here today. Actually, it feels like I've transported myself back to the 1930s. I feel like a 1930s gangster driving in my lowrider. I can see the front axle at the front. Visibility is very good, but there's just something desperately cool about driving a Morgan. Ooh. And it's got a very terrible turning circle. Very terrible turning circle. This is a car for someone who probably has a lot of cars, because it's a £63,000 toy. But as an experience, my God, this is something to behold. This car doesn't have any traction control. There's no traction control or stability control, so you are the one in charge of where you go. Now the exhaust in this car is pretty fruity, and you can tell it's a turbo because every time you come off the throttle, that is awesome. That is awesome. Now for some of the not so good things. Well, the turning circle, as I said before, is rubbish. But how often are you going to be doing a 3-point turn in something like this? Not very often. Now, I don't know whether it's because I haven't put the window down properly or something, but there is a breeze coming from this side of the car, which is, as you can imagine, annoying because it's cold. I don't want to be cold during the winter. And there's a little bit of wind noise when you're getting over, say, 40 miles an hour, again coming from this side. But again, that might be because I haven't shut the car properly. Another thing I'm a bit funny about is, as much as I like the blow-off valve noise with the exhaust, the BMW's B48 engine isn't very tuneful. And that might be because this is the passive exhaust and not the sports exhaust, but you don't really get much character from the exhaust. I mean, it's a flat blare rather than any kind of fruity musical note. Other than that, really, there isn't that much I don't like about this car. I really, really do like it. Now, I just need to find a spare £63,000